God, Ron DeSantis would be screaming right now if he knew about this. You're not even supposed to be able to do this in this state.
Rule number 1 of doing crime: don't post about it on the internet. But apparently, that's too hard a concept for some influencers to grasp. We're going to talk about the crazy story of a non-binary influencer who just seemingly confessed to a crime on camera, and so much more. On today's episode of the Brad vs. Everyone podcast, my daily show where I take on the craziest ideas from across the internet, across our media, and across our politics, all from an independent perspective. Up first, we've got to talk about friend of the channel and dear loyal Brad vs. Everyone listener, just kidding, he has me blocked, TikTok star who identifies as non-binary, James, aka James is Smiling on TikTok, who may have gotten himself in some trouble, some hot water, because he just seemingly confessed to violating Florida laws in a pretty strange video uploaded to TikTok. Let's take a look.
I just got my gender changed on my driver's license in the free state of Florida. My God, Ron DeSantis would be screaming right now if he knew about this.
Okay, we need to talk about the level of petty where this TikToker manually edited the captions so it said Rhonda DeSantis instead of Ron. I guess trying to like misgender the Republican governor or something. And I'm sorry, sweetie, I don't think Ron DeSantis particularly cares about you.
This little license now says female on it. It doesn't.
Let's take it down a notch. That scream gave me a little bit of the heebie-jeebies, but more importantly, your driver's license, your Florida driver's license, now says female. But James, you aren't female. Your sex is male. You are biologically male. So you're happy that your documents are now inaccurate. And I thought you were non-binary, right? Like identifying as neither male nor female, which isn't real, but to the extent that you think it is, why would you then want your documents to say female? The math here is not mathing. But guys, this video gets exponentially more delulu and borderline criminal, so we're gonna dive deeper into it after a quick message from today's sponsor. I became a homeowner at 25, and until I learned about today's sponsor, Home Title Lock, I had no idea what the biggest threats were, like home title fraud. Title fraud is a scam that involves criminals stealing the title or deed of your home, then borrowing against it or selling it behind your back. Without triple lock protection from Home Title Lock, you may not know about it until it's too late. After all, because of digitization, everything a thief needs can be easily accessed online. All it takes is a single piece of paper with your information filed with the county. What happens when your title is stolen? Forged documents are filed with your county, transferring your title out of your name and leaving your home vulnerable to fraudulent sales or mortgages. This is why you need Home Title Lock's triple lock protection. They offer 24/7 monitoring to detect any changes and urgent alerts. Plus, if you are a victim of title fraud, their US-based team works with lawyers and experts to get your title restored. Even responsible safeguards like homeowners insurance, identity protection, and home security services don't matter if you don't protect your title. Home Title Lock wraps a virtual barrier around your home, an essential layer of security to protect your most valuable asset. You can sign up today at HometitleLock.com/Brad and use code BRAD30 for 30 days of protection for free and a comprehensive title history report to make sure you're not already a victim. Check out HometitleLock.com/Brad or use the link in the description. All right, back to James here, our lovely and very normal friend. Let's keep listening.
I can't show you because then you would know way too much about me, but it says female. This was the last step in changing all of my documents. This was not easy. You're not even supposed to be able to do this in this state.
Hold up. You're not even supposed to be able to do this in this state, meaning Florida, which is a red state, has a Republican governor and state government. And yeah, that is correct, I believe. Yep, I just confirmed this with ABC News. In an article from February of 2024, so almost a year ago, Florida is barring transgender residents from changing their gender on driver's licenses. The article reads, Florida transgender residents will no longer be allowed to change the listed gender on their driver's license or state ID, according to a memo from the Florida Department of Highway Safety and Motor Vehicles. In the memo addressed to county tax collectors, the Florida Department of Highway Safety and Motor Vehicles Deputy Executive Director Robert Kynock states that misrepresenting one's gender, understood as sex, on a driver's license constitutes fraud, and those with licenses that represent their gender identity instead of their biological sex could be subjected to, quote, criminal and civil penalties, including cancellation, suspension, or revocation of his or her driver's license. In a statement to ABC News, the Florida Department of Highway Safety and Motor Vehicles said, "You do not get to play identity politics with your driver license." Okay, so setting aside your personal beliefs on this subject, whether you agree with this Florida law or you disagree, and I'm inclined to agree because I think that official documents need to reflect sex, not gender identity, so that we have a way of doing things, like segregating sports by biological sex, like keeping biological males out of women's prisons. But if you can change all your paperwork, then it becomes very hard to enforce any kind of restriction. I'm not dead set against the idea of having some sort of additional category like gender identity, but your sex should be listed, and it is biological and immutable, and it should reflect that. Now, of course, still, by all means, live your life however you want, but that's my position on that. But say, even if you do disagree with this Florida law, it is a law which apparently has civil and criminal penalties. So, babes, if you're going to violate it or find a way to work around it, you shouldn't broadcast a confession to a crime on TikTok. But that's literally what James here did.
Here's the loophole. Here's the loophole. Listen up. If you're replacing your driver's license, not renewing it, but replacing it because you lost it, they have to take all of your information from what they consider a primary document.
Notice how James did the lost it in air quotes, meaning James didn't really lose it. So you're admitting to fraud, to lying to these people at the DMV or whatever. Again, as you're not actual lawyer advising you here, that's not smart.
A passport is considered a primary document, and you can self-identify on your passport, which means, loophole, you can self-identify on your Florida driver's license. So my passport says female, and I showed it to them, and they made a bunch of copies, and they had a whole team meeting in the back. I shit you not, there were 8 people that were like looking at it, looking at me, looking back, and I swear I was like, I just felt like I was gonna cry.
That's good. That's a good sign. Being reduced to tears by DMV paperwork. That's definitely a sign of a stable, functioning adult. And look, they were probably having this meeting because your documents say female, but you're obviously not female. So A, that's confusing, and B, they don't want to break the law or lose their jobs or get in trouble, and you're potentially endangering their livelihood by tricking them into doing something in their official capacity that contravenes state laws and rules and regulations. Like, I can kind of see why they were concerned or confused, and that doesn't make them bigots, the way James clearly seems to be implying here.
It's so humiliating sometimes to be in a hostile state. Like, if you live in a hostile state, you know what I'm talking about. I don't know how possible it is to do this in every other red state. I don't know the loopholes everywhere else as well as I know them here.
Okay, but why is James even keeping their paperwork in Florida? Like, James posts most of James's videos from New York City, where it seems pretty clear James lives, or at least lived until very recently. I mean, maybe James moved back home to Florida, or maybe James keeps James's paperwork there for like logistical purposes or whatever, but it's not clear to me why, if it's so rough for you in a hostile state, which maybe it is, I don't know. I haven't been there, haven't walked in your shoes. Like, why do you stay? That's one of the great things about America is you can vote with your feet. You can move to a place that reflects your values. And like, many of your videos do seem to be in New York City. So why not get your driver's license there? I'm pretty sure they'll let you put whatever the heck you want on it.
Then on the way out of the DMV, a guy rolled down the window of his Ford F-250 and yelled, "Nice dick," at me. So, you know, good things don't last forever.
Yeah, so if that's true, which I guess I don't know, but if I take James at face value, people don't do that. Don't harass random people, even if you think they're woke or non-binary and you disagree with it or whatever. Don't do that. It's immature, it's rude, it's childish, it's not cool.
That license is gonna last 10 years.
Unless it doesn't, though, because they can literally cancel it since you obtained it fraudulently, put incorrect information on it, and then posted a vlog about all of that, confessing to that with a step-by-step on the internet. Like, y'all, influencers aren't very bright sometimes. they can cancel and rescind your license, and they probably will.
I am wishing all trans people a positive and easy get your documents in order December. And Ron DeSantis, you can suck my trans dick.
Oh, well, that's a lovely image from this very ladylike individual. So, kind of beyond the commentary I've already given you, I don't have a ton to say about this, other than that I find it kind of hilarious, and to me, it is a reminder of why we need accurately stated sex on government documents, but also, it just kind of sums up everything that's wrong with woke influencer culture in a nutshell. People play stupid games, do crime, post about it in 4K on the internet with a step-by-step explanation of how they violated or circumvented the law. Then they brag about how amazing it's working out for them, not realizing that that's probably going to change now that they posted this video. And then when it does change, when James gets a letter in the mail that James has had their license revoked by the state, and it's a hefty fine for fraud or maybe even some sort of criminal charge, James is going to come on TikTok and say, the state of Florida is so transphobic, it's victimizing me, I'm a victim, even though this is entirely James's fault for incorrectly putting information on their documents and tricking and deceiving government officials, then bragging about it on the internet. I don't know. Maybe I'm just a cynic. Maybe I'm just a jerk. But I have no sympathy at all for these people, and I always enjoy seeing influencers who openly brag about breaking the law on the internet hit with accountability for their stupidity. What did you think of this interesting video and of this character James here? Do let me know in the comments. Make sure you hit that like button while you're at it, and do make sure you're subscribed if you aren't yet. And now we got to check in on the mainstream media, because a CBS News journalist just admitted the quiet part out loud. CBS correspondent Jan Crawford was asked what the most undercovered story was of 2024, and here's what she said.
Undercovered, underreported. That would be, to me, Joe Biden's obvious cognitive decline that became undeniable in the televised debate.
At the presidential debate with Donald Trump.
Unquestioned. And, you know, it's starting to emerge now that his advisors kind of managed his limitations. It's been reported in the Wall Street Journal for 4 years. And yet he insisted that he could still run for president. We should have much more forcefully questioned whether he was fit for office for another 4 years, which could have led to a primary for the Democrats. It could have changed the scope of the entire election. Yet, still, incredibly, we read in the Washington Post that his advisors are saying that he regrets that he dropped out of the race. You know, that he thinks he could have beaten Trump. And I think that is either delusional or they're gaslighting.
President Biden
people.
has said repeatedly he was sick during the debate June 27th in Atlanta, and he's always been fine, and he leaves fine.
I love the dude interjecting at the end to gaslight us and say, oh, he was just sick at that debate where he obviously glitched and came off as totally cognitively impaired. Babe, I've never had a cold that gave me brain damage, okay? Anyway, this clip is kind of maddening because in a sense, you want to give Jan credit for admitting the truth, that the media horrifically downplayed, denied, and gaslit the public about Biden's obvious cognitive decline. But also, I mean, better late than never, I suppose. But, like, why was it the most undercovered story? Because of you and your network and the people around you at this table. It's like you're pointing out this shortcoming, but also seeming to not really take accountability for it. That it was your profession and your industry that totally failed to challenge the insane denials and gaslighting and downplayed lots of the very real images and videos of Biden clearly having lost a step or 10 as deep fakes or as right-wing propaganda, or talked about how he was the sharpest he's ever been behind closed doors and all this. Meanwhile, here is what Biden has actually been up to. In case you forgot, this guy still has the nuclear button over his couple of years in the presidency.
Beer brewed here, it is used to make the brew beer. My memory is fine. The president of Mexico, Sisi, did not want to open up the gate. A solid meeting with Mitterrand from Germany, from France, looked at me and said, said I'm going to be a president for everybody, whether you live in a red state or a green state. Anyway, I don't want to. And making Roe v. Wade. The best way to get something done, if it holds near and dear to you that you like to be able to, anyway, of Putin's kleptocracy, yeah. $159 billion left. America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was going to what am I doing here? One, two. Gang, I'm going to pronounce Shanga.
And yet the media did, as Jan admits now, much too late, fail to accurately cover this and call this out for not just the concerning issue that it was, but the national security threat that it very clearly has posed and poses to this day. It's also interesting to me how this CBS News correspondent, Jan Crawford, frames the issue with them having failed to cover this story, in part saying, and that hurt the Democratic Party, because if we'd been more honest about this and we'd pointed out that Biden had lost it, we could have had a primary and they could have put someone else up instead of Kamala, who might have been able to beat up Trump, actually beat Trump in the election. Like, hold up. You work for CBS News as a reporter. You're not supposed to admit that you align with the Democratic Party. Like, we all know that, but you're not supposed to be out here saying that quiet part out loud, are you? I mean, there is a sense where she said she could just be saying, like, this could have been the practical impact of it. But when you combine this with the kind of hyperbolic and alarmist tone that these networks take towards Trump, it seems pretty clearly that she and many of her colleagues in the media wish that somebody else had been the nominee and that they'd had a primary and that they could have beaten Trump, the Democrats, with a sharper candidate rather than Kamala being forced in at the last minute because they covered this up for so long until it was too late, until that debate where everything just went horribly, horribly wrong for Biden. They only then admitted what we'd all known for some time and what they'd called us liars and fake news and conspiracy theorists for suggesting that Biden's brain was cooked, that it was mush, that he was spent, that he was washed up, that he needed to be put out to pasture, not in the Oval Office. And now they're admitting they got the story wrong, or at least some of them are. But are they really taking accountability? Are they really going to do anything differently? Count me skeptical on that one. But what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. And Happy New Year, everybody. I'm so excited to keep doing this show with you guys and hopefully many more new people in 2025. With that, we'll talk again tomorrow.